AM radio, an op-ed column, and Fox News is not enough. I want a center-right nation to fight for its soul, and its soul is represented in the arts. Its soul is represented in a world in which media is everything. AM radio is the lowest form of communication. It's tinny, it's not robust, it's not Avatar. I want Avatar. I want the right to enter the world of media to the extent and invest in media the way that the left does.
The fake media is trying to silence us, but we will not let them, because the people know the truth. The fake media tried to stop us from going to the White House, but I'm president and they're not.
You're listening to the Curt Schilling Podcast, a Breitbart.com podcast. The podcast starts now. Here's Curt with today's headlines.
Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to episode 6 of the Curt Schilling Podcast. Got a good one today. Got Representative Jim Jordan lined up to talk about what might be the worst week in fake news history, and Breitbart's Matthew Boyle to give us kind of the latest rundown from the swamp. But first, I want to catch up. This weekend was another frantic weekend of lies and fake news, and it's getting dangerous now. There's an article by John Nolte on Breitbart.com you have to check out. Driven by the impotent rage and the political extremism and their own frustration at Trump's ongoing foreign and domestic success, the establishment media had its worst week in years last week surrounding the now debunked border separation hoax. A clean majority of 62% believe that traditional news media is biased, 44% believe the media is inaccurate, and 39% believe they spread false information. The fourth estate is the modern-day Titanic right now. That was before last week. The entire narrative around this separation of family is a hoax. It's a lie. Yes, people are being separated, children and adults, for their own good, for humane reasons. And you can listen to Border Patrol people talk about that. But they would have you believe this is a Trump policy. This has been pretty much the immigration policy for over 20 years. The hoax here isn't the actual policy. It's the media acting as if this just happened. Suddenly they're incredulous. They're apoplectic, calling us Nazis for something that Obama did every year of his administration. And I want you to listen to where we're at with this now, because I said last night we are sitting and looking at a ticking time bomb. And it's just a matter of time and before somebody like Maxine Waters, who you're going to hear in just a second, gets somebody killed, gets a law-abiding citizen, either a law-abiding citizen killed or gets a law-abiding citizen to defend their lives and kill someone else. And I pray to God that doesn't happen, but I don't doubt for a second that's where we're at. Listen to what she said yesterday about people that work in the Trump administration.
You know, I have no sympathy for these people that are in this administration who, know it's wrong what they're doing on so many fronts, but they tend to not want to confront this president or even leave, but they know what they're doing is wrong. And I want to tell you, for these members of his cabinet who remain and try to defend him, they're not going to be able to go to a restaurant. They're not going to be able to stop at a gas station. They're not going to be able to shop at a department store. The people are going to turn on them. They're going to protest. They're going to absolutely harass them until they decide that they're going to tell the president, no, I can't hang with you. This is wrong. This is unconscionable. We can't keep doing this to children. This is outrageous. He is absolutely being destructive to this country. I don't know why people are not screaming in the streets about what we're experiencing with this president. I have said all along, he is a dishonorable man. He's a despicable human being. He has no good values. He's dangerous. He does not care about our democracy. He's aligned himself with Putin. He loves the strong men and the dictators of the world. That's who he's looking to be friends with because he's just like them.
I've said it over and over again, and I believe it stronger now than ever. The left is the exact thing they purport to hate. She is a despicable human being. She has no redeeming qualities. She's just a repulsive human being. And if you're within earshot and you live in the area where Maxine Waters happens to be in power, which just befuddles me, Omar Navarro is running against her. And Omar Navarro is a man who you need to put into office. He is an American. He is an immigrant, a legal immigrant, and he will right the wrongs that this repulsive human being has wrought upon us. But this was a week, and the indignation that the left is acting with is incredibly, I don't even know what the word is. It's just incredibly off-putting. But it's going to get to a point. You heard her say it. They're going to harass somebody. And I can tell you this. If I'm in public with my family and somebody comes up in a public place and begins to harass and potentially assault me, I will defend my family's lives. And I am a law-abiding citizen, and I do conceal carry, and that's exactly what's going to happen. She's going to put somebody in front of another person that will defend their lives with a legally obtained firearm, and she's going to get somebody killed, and then she will be at the front of the line marching on D.C. to protest the Second Amendment for a murder she caused. It's repulsive in every possible way. And just to make sure you all understand how embarrassing the media is and should be, I want you to listen to DHS Secretary Jay Johnson under the Obama administration talking about the very thing the left is protesting right now. Listen to what he says about separating families.
Let's look, because you mentioned it, at how the Obama administration and you, as Secretary of Homeland Security, handled this back in 2014, when there was also a spike in children, most of them unaccompanied, coming across the border. You started jailing entire families. In some cases, not a lot, but in some, you separated children from their parents. And these pictures that we're putting up from 2014 show pictures of unaccompanied minors in effect, jail situations. As you look back on that, did you handle it so well?
Well, Chris, without a doubt, the images and the reality from 2014, just like 2018, are not pretty. And so we expanded family detention. We had then 34,000 beds for family detention, only 95 of 34,000 equipped to deal with families. So we expanded it. I freely admit it was controversial. We believed it was necessary at the time. I still believe it is necessary to maintain a certain capability for families. We can't have catch and release. And in my 3 years, we deported or repatriated or returned over 1 million people. But again, you can deal with this on the border. You can try different things. We did not want to go so far as separate families, but unless we deal with the underlying causes that are motivating people to come here in the first place, we're going to continue to bang our heads against the wall on this issue.
All right, so let's look at the problem that President Trump is trying to address right now. Let's put it up on the screen. 40 to 50,000 people cross the border illegally each month. Last month, 9,500 family members crossed the border illegally, and up to 40,000 unaccompanied minors cross per year. When I was talking this week to a top member of the Trump administration, and I told him you were going to be on the show, he said, I have one question for Secretary Johnson. What is the Democrat solution? How would they deal? I mean, it's easy to say, well, we got to fix Central America, but come on, that isn't going to solve the 40,000, 50,000 coming each month, certainly not anytime soon. How would you deal with that flood of people coming over the border now?
Well, I'll tell you Jay Johnson's solution. Continue our border security efforts, give the Border Patrol, give immigration enforcement the tools they need, but let's not go so far as to separate families, but also continue what Congress started 2 years ago, aid to Central America to deal with the poverty and violence, and also encourage other countries in the region, Mexico, Belize, Costa Rica, Panama, to develop their own systems for asylum, for refugee processing. It was coming from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops who told me in 2014, you can't just simply padlock a burning building without providing people with an alternative path to safety.
That is the swamp personified. He did it, but it was necessary. We believed it was necessary at the time. He didn't offer any alternative. He didn't offer a solution. He just gave talking points as an answer to the solution. We're talking about real time right now. Why the outrage now? Why wasn't this media cycle happening during the Obama administration? And that's just one of the small points. The hypocrisy is so far beyond anything I've ever even thought of imagining from our media. Listen to, and this was last week, according to emails that Breitbart News has obtained, GQ magazine, interviewing Donald Trump Jr., asked the son of the President of the United States if he's ever wanted to have sex with his mother. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. That's where we're at. And then the media jumped all over an op-ed that was penned by senior advisor Stephen Miller's third grade classmate. Wrote it for Politico. And the incredible, heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching, nightmarish secret that was revealed was that Stephen Miller was obsessed with tape and glue in third grade. Yep. I never knew we'd have an administration that corrupt. A member that was obsessed with tape and glue like every other third grader in the history of third graders. And now we're starting to enter into dangerous ground. Paul Manafort, ABC News broke news on the Chiron underneath live on air about Paul Manafort saying that he had pleaded guilty to 5 counts of manslaughter. Not only is he not pleaded guilty to anything, and he's not being charged with manslaughter, he isn't being charged with anything involving violence, nor are there any whispers or rumors that he has ever been involved in any kind of violence. And the media is offended by the term fake news. They have the audacity is amazing to me. And finally, I penned a blog last week about it, and I talked about last week about the term Nazi, which the left has just abused and misused. On Morning Joe, MSNBC last week, if you vote for Trump, then you, the voter you, not Donald Trump, are standing at the border like Nazis, going, you here, and I think we have to flip it. It's a given the evilness of Donald Trump. If you vote, you can no longer separate yourself. That was said on Morning Joe, the most established media show anywhere on television. And once you start comparing people to Nazis, you're calling for violence against them. And finally, we have a multitude of events. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was asked to leave the Red Hen in Lexington, Virginia, because she would not be served. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen was chased out of a restaurant in D.C., and also had people at her home protesting. Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi was threatened and intimidated by a mob of people in the movie theater. She required a police escort to leave. She claims they spit on her face and blocked her exit. Senior advisor Stephen Miller was harassed at a restaurant called Espita Mescalara in D.C., and Maxine Waters, again you heard her, openly calling for mob justice. People are going to start getting hurt, and it's going to be on their back. And I'm going to have Jim Jordan on next, hopefully the next Speaker of the House, to talk about this. But in the meantime, I want to get his opinion on this stuff and what's happening. And where do we go from here? How do we stop this stuff? Because it is getting beyond dangerous, guys. I can tell you this. I won't allow something like this to happen to my family. I'll use every power within my constitutional God-given rights to defend my freedom, to defend my families, to defend the man who's going to go down as probably the greatest president of my lifetime from an achievement perspective. The entire time the media is egging on the left and trying to ask the left, incite the left to riot and to violence. Coming up, Representative Jim Jordan. You're not going to want to miss this.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about Breitbart News' Second Amendment newsletter, Downrange with A.W.R. Hawkins. Features the top gun stories of the week, every week, and guest columnists like Gun Owners of America's Larry Pratt or Armed American Radio's Mark Walters. Also features a review of a firearm or firearm accessory each week. The newsletter downloads on Thursday, comes right to your email inbox. You can subscribe at Breitbart.com/AWR.
You're listening to the Curt Schilling Podcast. Once again, here's Curt Schilling.
Joining me now, I'm honored to have him. I've been on my show over the years, and he is, I pray to God, the next Speaker of the House, Representative Jim Jordan. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Curt. Good to be with you.
Hey, thanks again. I know you're busy. Listen, let me get to the thing. I know I kind of have a morning show, pre-show that I do. Everybody that listens to this show, everybody that sends in questions wants me to ask you two things. Are you going to be the next Speaker? And if you are or are not, what and where are we in the process?
Well, you know, if and when there's a speaker's race, I plan on being part of that discussion. I've said that for a number of weeks now. But right now, the most important thing, Curt, is that we do what we said. We get the right kind of immigration bill across the finish line. We actually make the tax cuts permanent. We fight for the values we told the American people. We reform well. I mean, these are the kind of things that we told the American people we're going to do. And I think if more important than who the speaker is next year is what we do this year, because if we don't do the right things this year, we may not have a race for speaker, maybe a race for a minority leader. So let's stay focused on what we got to do, and I think everything else will take care of itself.
Well, you're trying to stay focused despite hurdles that have never been there before in my lifetime. I just got done playing sound bites of Maxine Waters calling for public violence. Sarah Sanders, Kirsten Nelson, Pam Bondi, Stephen Miller, all part of President Trump's administration, were asked in various ways, harassed and asked to leave public places this week. I don't even need to read the tea leaves or read between the lines. Maxine Waters was calling for violence against members of the Trump administration. And I said, and Jim, I don't know any other way to say this, somebody's going to get killed. Somebody is going to hear Maxine Waters' call and physically assault a law-abiding citizen who happens to be carrying legally a firearm, and there's going to be a problem. I pray to God it doesn't happen, but we're a nation of 300-some million people, and you know how many people take their dog whistles from the media. And when that happens, Maxine Waters will be leading a march on Washington to repeal our Second Amendment because the gun will be the problem. And I fear that that's a potential solution. Do you guys on the Hill not feel the very same way?
Well, I mean, it is scary what you're hearing from people, and it's just sad. I mean, it's sad. Sarah Sanders is out to dinner with her family, not hurting a soul, just wanting to enjoy some time. I mean, that job, the intensity of that job, and then just to sit down and relax with your family and then gets pulled off back on the patio and the person says you need to leave. Why? Because she's a conservative and she's working for President Trump, the guy that the American people made president, who won Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, who wanted fair and square. I mean, that's a part that just drives me crazy. It's just as wrong as it can be, but this is the left being the left, and I hope you're wrong. I hope nothing of violence comes from this, and I hope it stops, frankly, the language from my colleague, Maxine Waters. But this is, just like you said, this is as wrong as it can possibly be.
Well, and here's the thing. I'll take the next step. You and I both know the media is pushing this. It's not going to stop. They're going to ratchet up the intensity as they have. We're dealing with the border issue that has been law for over 20 years. Suddenly, the left, I had Jay Johnson on, had his sound playing from talking about the time and place when they were doing the very thing we're watching Trump and the administration be chastised for now. They were doing it back then, and he said, well, at the time we felt it was necessary. And I believe he said, we believe it was necessary is what he said. And the fact of the matter is, the last week and a half, the media has doubled down on just destroying any semblance of credibility they ever had. I mean, I got to find out, and I'm sure you were stunned to find out that Stephen Miller was obsessed with tape and glue in third grade.
All the crazy things. Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. You and I both, and I know, offline, I'm laughing. This stuff is ridiculous. It's insane. It's stupid. GQ Magazine, we got the emails here at Breitbart News. GQ Magazine interviewed Donald Trump Jr. and asked him if he ever wanted to have sex with his mother.
Oh, golly. Well, this is sickening.
Yeah. Well, and here's the and the cover of Time Magazine is a fake. It's a naked propaganda piece using a lie. But then you had the person that was overseeing that decision saying, well, yeah, the picture's fake, but the point is right on. I wonder how people like you get your job done when the media is doing everything it can to put things in front of you that will stop you from actually doing your job.
Well, the two things. One, you just understand the lay of the land when you start. I mean, look, I tell my colleagues in the Freedom Caucus, I say, if the press isn't saying something bad about us, we're not doing anything any good. We just know that's the way it works. So that if you base it on the press, you never get anything done. So just do what you told the American people you're going to do what they elected you to do, and rest assured that in spite of all the crazy stuff in the left-wing press and the mainstream media, the American people still see through most of it, which is the good news. The second thing is the left, they want catch and release. They want open borders on this specific issue. That's why they're going crazy, because deep down they want nothing more than just to say we want an open border. Remember, Secretary Clinton, when she was caught on tape saying she wants a borderless hemisphere. This is what the left wants. And so there can't be any type of adjudication. They can't hold families. You can't. The left just wants catch and release, and they want an open border because they think that helps them, and they think that helps them politically.
Well, okay. So, I'm with you. I agree that you have to stay focused and do the job you were sent there to do. But we're nearing the 2-year point soon of this administration, and Republicans have been in control. And there is no wall. There is no funding for a wall. Obamacare, while it's certainly been beaten up, isn't completely gone. I mean, all the things that we expected to happen, and I'm obviously not blaming you, because I would argue that were it not for you, none of this stuff would have happened. But the fact of the matter is we've been in power for 2 years, and we haven't been able to get the things, like you said, that you were sent there to do done.
Well, Congress has it, but here's the good news. You're right. There's a few things we got to get done that we promised the American people that we haven't yet. But the good news is, think about this. Taxes are lower, regulations are lower, the economy is growing. We've got the lowest unemployment in 20 years. Gorsuch is on the court. We're out of the Iran deal. We're out of the Paris climate deal. The Koreas have met. The hostages have come home. We've had the Korean summit and the embassies in Jerusalem. So this is what really drives the left crazy, is Donald Trump is succeeding. So by anyone's definition, the year and a half we have had under President Trump has been amazing. And you're right. We still got a few things we got to get done in Congress, because most of what President Trump's been able to accomplish has been not because of Congress, but in spite of Congress. I mean, we've helped him on the regulation and the tax front, and that's good. But there's lots of other things we got to get done. But overall, it has been a phenomenal year and a half, and that's what drives the left crazy. That's what they can't stand, because this guy was never supposed to succeed. First of all, he was never supposed to win. Then he was never supposed to have a successful term, and both things happen, and they're going crazy, as evidenced by the ridiculous things Maxine Waters is saying, and all the left comedians and all the people on the left, they're losing it, and we can see that. Now, your point is, I think, serious. We hope it never gets to some kind of where it fosters violence and actually someone gets hurt. We hope that never happens. But they're going crazy, and they're going crazy because Donald Trump is succeeding.
But you wouldn't know it. You know, that's the problem. You wouldn't know. I laugh about it, but I'm also at one of the few places left that actually writes news and truth. And we're ostracized every bit as much, if not more, than the Trump administration, because apparently we're called the administration's mouthpiece, even though apparently telling people the truth is become something that the left is completely against. And I understand why, because it's exactly why you said. Probably the most aggressive 18 to 20 months I've ever seen in an administration to achieve campaign promises. And the first time in my lifetime I've seen a presidential candidate go into the Oval Office and actually keep the promises he had on the campaign trail, which, I mean, I don't think the left took him seriously. I really don't. I mean, we know they didn't, but also I don't think they took his word, because what he's doing is removing and destroying the establishment, which we've come to find out, much to the chagrin of Americans everywhere, the FBI and the DOJ and all of them are complicit.
Oh, God.
And I can't fathom what a Hillary Clinton win would have meant. We would not know anything about James Comey.
We'd have never heard of Peter Strzok. We'd have never known about what James Comey did, Andy McCabe did. We'd have never known the fact that Andy McCabe lied 3 times under oath. We'd have never known that Peter Strzok was the lead agent on the Clinton investigation, lead agent on the Russian investigation, that Peter Strzok opened up the Russian investigation on July 31st, and within the next 15 days, he said these things. He said, first, I can help my country on many levels. Second, he said Trump will not win. We will stop Trump. And then third, he said we have an insurance policy. He said all 3 of those things within 2 weeks after launching the Russian investigation into President Trump. Now, that's scary. This is the key agent. This is the guy who thought he was the James Bond of the FBI, was going to solve everything and could fix everything. This guy, and the good news is, Curt, we're going to get to depose him on Wednesday this week in front of the Judiciary Committee in the House. we'll have some key questions for him. But, yeah, you're exactly right. Donald Trump doesn't win. Hillary Clinton's president of the United States. We would not know anything. Think about this, Kurt. The top 6 people at the FBI, James Comey, fired. Andy McCabe, fired, lied 3 times under oath, faces a criminal referral. Jim Rubicki, chief of staff, has left the FBI. Jim Baker, general counsel at the FBI, was demoted and then left the FBI. Lisa Page, FBI counsel, was demoted and then left the FBI. Peter Strzok was demoted, escorted out of the FBI a few weeks ago, was former head of deputy counterintelligence, and ran the Clinton investigation and the Russia investigation. When have you ever seen 6 people at any federal agency, top people like that, where they've been fired, demoted, and left, all within like a few months? That is how bad it was at the top levels, and we'd have not known one bit about that but for Donald Trump winning the White House.
That's exactly what happens when you make a colossal mistake in the private and public sector, right? You clean house. You clean house because the message that you're sending, your brand is spoiled and ruined, and the people that spoiled and ruined it, you need to distance yourself from. That's exactly what happened at the FBI. And all 6 of those people would likely still be employed in our government and running our FBI and DOJ and all those other things had she won. And I guess one of my questions is, when you get Peter Strzok in front, I'm expecting a plead the fifth. Is that what we're going to hear, or are we going to actually hear something meaning and tangible?
No, I think he'll answer a question, but, we don't know until we won't know until he comes in. I
guess I'm just asking, what's your gut feel and what are you hearing?
My gut feeling is he's going to answer. We'll see. His counsel said we didn't need to subpoena him. He would come in. Chairman Goodlatte wound up issuing a subpoena. He's scheduled for this Wednesday, so I look forward to asking him some key questions. I want to know about his travel. I want to know how many times he went to London. I want to know if he ever talked to Christopher Steele. I want to know if he talked to Glenn Simpson, and if so, how many times, and when, where those conversations took place. I mean, there's lots of. I want to know about that July 31st. What really prompted him to open the investigation? There's a lot of questions I have, and we'll get through those on Wednesday.
And I guess we're all waiting for that first fleck of snow to begin rolling, because I look at this is a group of cowards. And the first person to begin rolling on anyone is going to expose the whole thing. These people don't care about anybody but themselves. And if somebody ends up rolling, if Peter Strzok ends up starting to expose a bigger conspiracy, then I think everybody in it is going to be looking for their own life raft. And that, as scary as that is, that would end up being the best possible outcome here, because we'd find out about it all. Because I really believe James Comey and Andrew McCabe and many other people deserve to be in prison over the treasonous acts that they committed. They tried to rig a presidential election. All the evidence we've seen. Again, I got to tell you, I have been saying over and over again, the left is the very thing they purport to hate. And they are doing the very things that they scream about. For 2 years, they were investigating President Trump for collusion. We found out they were the ones colluding.
Yeah, they always accuse us of what they're doing. Think about this. They took that dossier, that opposition research document paid by the Clinton campaign through the law firm to Glenn Simpson, to Christopher Steele. They took that document to the secret court, the FISA court, to get a secret warrant to spy on a fellow American, and they didn't tell the court 2 important facts. They didn't tell the court who paid for the document, the Democrat National Committee and the Clinton campaign, and they didn't tell the court the guy who wrote the document, Christopher Steele, had been fired because he's out leaking information. Now, when you go to court, when I go to court, or any of my constituents go to court, we have to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The stinking FBI, when they go to the FISA court, they should have to do the same darn thing, and they didn't. And they did it because they were trying to do what you just said, and that is as wrong as it gets, and someone needs to be held accountable for what they did.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right. Take care, brother.
All right. You too. Jim Jordan, folks, and all of the things that we know to be true the media won't tell you. I haven't seen him on CNN recently, and that's why.
Breitbart News Daily with Alex Marlow.
Why did we see some of the Republican kissing of Mark Zuckerberg that was taking place?
I called it kissing the ring because I felt like every single person practically had to kiss the ring of this guy, who wants to do nothing except get all those people out of office. So, bizarre behavior from the Republicans.
Breitbart News Daily, weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Patriot 125.
We want to hear from you. Tweet the show at Garrick38. Once again, here's Curt Schilling.
Welcome back. Joining me now, as he has for the past couple of years on Whatever It Takes, is Breitbart's own Matthew Boyle. Good morning, Matt. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, Kurt? How you doing, brother?
I'm good. Listen, it didn't get a huge reaction out of me just because I'm not a person that gets all stunned and excited, but Jim Jordan was just on and basically said that if and when there's a potential speakership change, his name's in the mix. That, to me, is exciting. That's a man I want to see in a position of influence in D.C. right now.
First off, that's absolutely massive news, Kurt, and that's just a testament to your show and to the platform of Breitbart and everything, able to break big news like that. And we're able to break news that the establishment's not interested in. If you watch CNN or you read the New York Times or the Washington Post or Politico or MSNBC or any of those places, they're not covering this battle inside the Republican Party that's, for the heart and soul of this party. What kind of party do we want to be? Do we want to be the globalist party that believes in open borders like Paul Ryan? Or do we want to be the party that believes in a secure country and economic prosperity for all Americans, like President Trump believes in? And so that battle has been happening inside the Republican Party since at least as far back as 2013, maybe back even further than that if you want to get into the nitty-gritty. And that battle, the only place you're really going to see that discussion happening is on Breitbart. And there's some other places out there, too, that are doing a good job.
Well, so here's where my focus is right now. Listening to Maxine Waters yesterday and watching the events of last week, multiple members of the Trump administration were harassed in public. And then yesterday you hear Maxine Waters basically calling for events to happen, public events to happen. And I said, and I pray to God I'm wrong, but I said somebody's going to get killed. Somebody is going to take it a step too far, which is what people do, and assault someone, a law-abiding citizen who is, I said, thinking of myself, I conceal carry. I'm a legal law-abiding citizen who I legally conceal carry. If somebody comes out of nowhere at a strange location and begins to harass my family and there is a physical issue, I'm going to protect my family. Somebody's going to get killed, and it's going to be on her shoulders, and then she's going to be leading a march on Washington to get rid of our Second Amendment because that will be the thing she'll blame. But the fact of the matter is the media is not going to ratchet down. This is only going to escalate, and it's going to lead to something really bad.
Yeah, and also there's a few other things here. So first off, I'm not sure if she did or not because I'm not an expert on these, but I know some people have been talking about whether or not she violated the rules of the House of Representatives by doing this. So she's held to a higher standard than the law by being a member of the House. And the question really becomes is should she be censured by the House of Representatives for this egregious act that she made, this call to violence on television. But then in addition to that, this is the modus operandi of the left. I mean, we saw this not just with Sarah Huckabee Sanders being denied service. And look, I've got my differences with Sarah, but this is absolutely wrong. Being denied service at the Red Hen restaurant in Lexington, Virginia. But we saw this with leftist protesters who, by the way, work for the government. Okay, right. That we found out later they work for the government. The leftist protesters who work for the government going after DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen at a restaurant. Again, I got my differences with Nielsen, but the fact of the matter is this is absolutely unbelievable, the behavior that we've seen from these people, like screaming at her in a restaurant for 15 minutes. Then in addition to that, we've seen now Politico find a third-grade classmate of Stephen Miller to talk about how he played with tape and glue. It's unbelievable. Who didn't do crazy stuff in third grade, Kurt? Right?
Well, first of all,
come
that
on.
We're even having that conversation is a joke.
But the fact of the matter is that these people will stop at nothing. They will leave no uncertain. It shows how unhinged that the left is, and they're becoming more and more unhinged as we head towards November. And I think it's a sign.
It's dangerous, Matt. It's dangerous. That's my problem. Is we've been saying it for months, and we've watched the successes. Representative Jordan laid out the successes over the last 18 months. To have that list of successes and to have the media talking about the things they're talking about, clearly this is impacting them in a way that they just can't rationalize. I guarantee you, listen, if the blue wave was coming, the left would be sitting back laughing right now. They're doing the exact opposite. Right. They're going crazy. They're pulling the fire alarm because they know it's not coming. But John Nolte wrote an article on Breitbart.com today basically kind of summarizing the last week and a half in the media, and this has probably been their worst week in his presidency. Given all of the things that they've done and the lies. The Time magazine cover is a perfect summation of fake news. It is a photograph. It is a lie. But the seniors at Time Magazine said, well, yeah, the implication is false, but the image is what we want to, portray. The image is real and all that other stuff. It's just
by the way, this
insane.
week's probably the only rival to this week for the bad week for the media in the entire presidency so far is exactly a year ago when 3 CNN employees were terminated or forced to resign in disgrace after they were caught publishing fake news and making up investigations about the whole Russia scandal. And that was the beginning of the whole Russia narrative falling apart. And it's still crumbling now to this day with the whole Mueller thing and all the IG report and everything
it's already
is trickling out.
You and I both know. It's a non.
Oh, yeah,
but
there's more
joke.
shoes to drop that are bad for that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying when I say
well,
it's
and I got to tell you, Representative Jordan talked about the fact he's going to be sitting in front of Peter Strzok this week, and he believes that Peter Strzok is going to talk. He told me that Mr. Strzok's attorney said that they did not have to subpoena him. He was willing to speak. I said to him, if that's true, everybody's waiting. I'm waiting for that first little snowball to start rolling because these people are the epitome of cowards, and everything in their life is about them and themselves. They won't protect each other. They won't do it.
I hope he turns on everybody else in there. And
it's just going to take one.
Maybe he'll do the right thing. So
it's just going to take one. It's going to take one because this is a group of people who are perpetual liars, phonies. They tried to rig a presidential election. I mean, you can't get more treasonous than that.
And by the way, their text messages, all these emails that have come out, they all demonstrate this and the whole big picture that's come together. But Peter Strzok is somebody who would know what James Comey did and didn't do. He's somebody who would know what the intelligence community was doing that was wrong and so on and so forth. So hopefully he goes up to Capitol Hill and tells the truth.
It was funny because Jim rattled off about 5 or 6 text messages from his phone that Peter Strzok sent after he was appointed the lead on the Russia investigation. And all 6 of them were anti-Trump, that within 2 weeks of him being appointed the lead. So
the latest one that I saw very recently, which was pretty remarkable, was he was apparently in a Walmart in Southern Virginia and talking about all the smelly Trump supporters that he found. That might have been a different FBI agent. I don't know. I
saw that. Yeah.
All these things. Yeah, but the fact of the matter is that there was a clear anti-Trump bias in this whole thing, and the thing's going to keep falling apart. But the bigger picture is that the media pushed this for months and months and months and months, and then now they just moved on like it was nothing. But the fact of the matter is that CNN's directly responsible for this. The Washington Post, the New York Times, they are directly responsible for this. They keep patting themselves on the back, handing out Pulitzers to each other. But the point is, and by the way, the Pulitzer Prize Committee is completely fraud. It's a complete fraud, and it's corrupt to beyond belief. It is a disgrace to win a Pulitzer now. I don't want one. I'd turn it down if they tried to give me one. It means I'm doing something wrong. But the point is that the entire industry is rotten to its core. And right after the whole Russia thing fell apart, what did they switch to? They switched to Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels. Then when that fell apart, what have they switched to now? It's the border stuff. And they're walking right into the trap. They're walking right into the 2016 trap.
The border stuff we heard Obama, DHS had Jay Johnson talk about. They were doing the exact same thing, 6 years ago. They've been doing it for almost 20 years.
But this is Trump's wheelhouse. So Trump wants to talk about the border and immigration. So the more that fake news that they try to do on this, the better it is for us. So I hope they keep doing it. Because I want to talk about immigration all the way till November, because the more we talk about immigration, the more we win.
Matt, always a pleasure, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, Curt.
All right, you take care of yourself. Winners and losers was actually incredibly easy today. Anyone and everyone associated with the Red Hen restaurant in Virginia is a loser. What they did, the situation went down like this. The owner was called by an employee at home, told that Sarah Sanders was at the restaurant. She drove to the restaurant, had her crew, all of her people, which apparently there's many people across the spectrum, LGBTQ spectrum, which has nothing to do with anything. They all came together and said that they did not want to serve her. So she asked her to leave. Sarah left. The only reason we ever found out was because an employee tweeted it out. Sarah didn't say it. She was responding to it. But the fact of the matter is, a group of people who are apparently all up in arms about intolerance and fighting intolerance practiced it. Again, the hypocrisy is just otherworldly. And my winner today is a face only a mother could love. Zsa Zsa, the 9-year-old English bulldog, who was crowned the 2018 World's Ugliest Dog. And I got to tell you, there's some pictures on Breitbart.com. We have an English bulldog named Georgia. She has a face only. This might be the ugliest animal I've ever seen. I would still love to have him. He's huge, by the way, or she is. I'm going to guess she won it running away because I've never seen anything comparable to this. But Jaja, the 9-year-old English bulldog, winner of the 2018 World's Ugliest Dog contest. Back tomorrow. Not going to want to miss tomorrow. Diamond and Silk are going to be joining me tomorrow, and I cannot wait to talk to these two angels. Well, it's going to be a lot of fun, I promise you that. So you guys have a great day. God bless. Thank you for tuning in.
Breitbart News Tonight with Joel Pollack and Rebecca Mansour.
The real thing that the left is angry about is they're like, how could you allow these Russian memes? Somebody saw a meme and then they decided they had to vote for Trump. Or it must have been fake news. And by fake news, they mean conservative websites. Come on. But this is what the left thinks. Fake news. And by fake news, what they mean is shut down Breitbart.
Breitbart News Tonight. Weeknights starting at 9 p.m. East on Sirius XM Patriot 125.